The neighborhood follows new urbanism by placing homes, shops, schools, and walkable streets close together. Residents practice tactical urbanism by using paint and movable planters to test a safer plaza before permanent construction. The River District reflects landscape urbanism because parks, wetlands, and waterways shape the entire development plan. Ecological urbanism guides the project, so buildings conserve energy while restored habitats manage rainwater naturally. Everyday urbanism focuses on ordinary places such as food stalls, bus stops, sidewalks, and the routes people use daily. Sustainable urbanism creates compact, transit-served neighborhoods that use less land and produce fewer emissions. The zoning ordinance is the local law that states which buildings and activities are allowed on each property. This zoning district permits apartment buildings and neighborhood shops but does not allow heavy factories. The zoning map uses different colors to show where housing, businesses, parks, and industry may be located. The zoning code sets detailed rules for building height, setbacks, parking, and permitted land uses. Through inclusionary zoning, every large apartment project must reserve some homes for lower-income residents. Exclusionary zoning keeps affordable housing out by allowing only large, expensive houses on very large lots. Population density is high here because many people live within each square kilometer of the district. The new towers increase residential density by providing many more homes on the same amount of land. Building density is low near the park, where structures occupy only a small part of each site. The central district has high urban density, with closely spaced buildings, residents, jobs, and services. The developer received a density bonus that allowed extra apartments in exchange for adding affordable housing. The density gradient moves from tall, crowded buildings downtown to shorter, widely spaced homes at the edge. Neighborhood walkability is strong because residents can safely walk from their homes to shops, schools, and parks. Wider sidewalks, shade trees, and slower traffic improved the street walkability of the busy avenue. Urban walkability measures how easily people can reach city destinations on foot instead of using a car. The Walkability Index combines sidewalk quality, destination distance, street connections, and traffic safety into one measure. The apartment earned a high walkability score because groceries, cafes, and transit stops are only a short walk away. A walkability assessment examined crossings, pavement conditions, lighting, shade, and obstacles along each route. Street connectivity is high because the dense grid gives drivers and walkers many direct routes between places. A new footbridge improved pedestrian connectivity by linking the neighborhood directly to the railway station. Transit connectivity improved when the bus routes were coordinated with the metro and regional rail lines. Network connectivity describes how completely the streets and paths link together without isolated dead ends. The open passage creates spatial connectivity between the courtyard, the public plaza, and the waterfront. Neighborhood connectivity increased after barriers were removed and local streets were joined to nearby districts. Universal accessibility ensures that children, older adults, and people with disabilities can all use the space independently. The raised crossing improves pedestrian accessibility by giving walkers a safe, level route across the road. Transit accessibility is excellent because every home is within a short, barrier-free walk of a bus or metro stop. Spatial accessibility describes how easily people can enter a place and reach its important areas. Ramps, elevators, wide doors, and smooth paths provide wheelchair accessibility throughout the plaza. The riverbank gained public accessibility when private fences were removed and a public path was opened. Spatial heterogeneity is visible in the district's varied pattern of narrow lanes, broad plazas, tall towers, and small gardens. Land use heterogeneity exists because housing, offices, shops, workshops, and parks share the same area. Urban heterogeneity gives the city a varied character through different people, activities, buildings, and public spaces. Functional heterogeneity allows the complex to support living, working, shopping, recreation, and community services. Architectural heterogeneity comes from the mixture of old brick houses, glass towers, and modern timber buildings. Neighborhood heterogeneity is high because the area contains different housing types, income groups, and daily activities. Urban morphology examines the city's physical form, including its streets, plots, blocks, and buildings. Street morphology changes from a regular downtown grid to winding roads in the hillside district. Block morphology describes whether city blocks are long, short, open, enclosed, regular, or irregular in shape. Building morphology compares the physical forms of towers, courtyard buildings, row houses, and detached homes. Settlement morphology reveals how the village grew from a compact center into a long pattern beside the highway. Landscape morphology studies the physical pattern of hills, valleys, waterways, vegetation, and constructed spaces. A city block is the area of buildings and land surrounded by streets on all sides. The urban block combines apartments around its edges with a shared green courtyard in the center. In a perimeter block, connected buildings line the outer edges and enclose a private interior courtyard. The street block extends from one intersection to the next and contains several shops and apartment entrances. The residential block contains mainly homes, shared gardens, play areas, and small parking spaces. The superblock combines several ordinary blocks into one large area with few streets crossing through it. The cafe doors, shop windows, and frequent entrances create active frontage with constant activity along the sidewalk. Street frontage is the part of a property or building that directly faces and touches the street edge. Continuous shop entrances and display windows form retail frontage along the main shopping street. The building frontage includes the facade, doors, windows, and other elements facing the public street. The attached buildings create continuous frontage because their facades form an unbroken line beside the sidewalk. Restaurants, banks, and stores occupy the commercial frontage on the ground floor of the avenue. Street alignment describes the planned direction and position of the road as it curves through the site. The houses share a building alignment because every front wall stands on the same line beside the sidewalk. Engineers adjusted the curb alignment so the street edge bends smoothly around the new public square. The new road alignment avoids the wetland by changing the route and direction of the roadway. The tower, fountain, and central gate form a visual alignment that draws the eye through the plaza. Horizontal alignment shows the road's path from above, including its straight sections and curves. The pavement width was increased so pedestrians, wheelchairs, trees, and cafe tables could fit comfortably. The pavement design uses different colors and patterns to separate walking, cycling, and seating areas. The rough pavement surface gives people better grip and reduces slipping during rain. Stone was chosen as the pavement material because it is durable and suits the historic square. Permeable pavement lets rainwater pass through small openings into the soil instead of running into drains. Raised patterns in the tactile pavement help visually impaired pedestrians detect crossings and platform edges. A street intersection is the place where two or more streets meet or cross. The road intersection connects the north-south highway with the east-west local road. Traffic lights control vehicles and pedestrians at the signalized intersection. At the unsignalized intersection, drivers follow signs and yield because there are no traffic lights. The intersection design adds shorter crossings, curb extensions, and protected space for cyclists. High intersection density means streets cross frequently, creating many route choices within a small area. Rows of mature trees shade both sides of the tree-lined avenue. The Grand Avenue is a broad, formal street that leads directly to the Civic Monument. Shops, offices, restaurants, and busy sidewalks fill the commercial avenue. Apartment entrances, front gardens, and quiet sidewalks characterize the residential avenue. Cars are prohibited on the pedestrian avenue, leaving the entire route for people walking and cycling. The ceremonial avenue provides a wide, impressive route for parades and important public events. Public transit includes buses, trains, trams, and other shared transportation available to everyone. Mass transit carries large numbers of passengers through the city on high-capacity trains and buses. The rapid transit system uses frequent trains on dedicated tracks to move passengers quickly across the city. The transit corridor concentrates bus lanes, rail service, stations, and new development along one major route. The central station is a transit hub where passengers can transfer among buses, metro lines, and regional trains. The transit network links many routes and stations into one connected system across the metropolitan area. Street pedestrianization removed cars from the shopping street and gave the roadway to walkers. Urban pedestrianization creates car-free routes and public spaces across a wider part of the city. City center pedestrianization closed several downtown streets to vehicles while keeping them open to people on foot. Partial pedestrianization allows delivery vehicles in the morning, but reserves the street for walkers during the day. Temporary pedestrianization turns the road into a car-free public space only on weekends and festival days. The pedestrianization scheme is a coordinated plan to remove through traffic and improve walking conditions. The waterfront promenade is a broad walking path with seating and views along the edge of the harbor. The pedestrian promenade provides a pleasant car-free route for strolling between shops and public squares. People walk beside the beach, cafes, and ocean views on the seaside promenade. The urban promenade is a landscaped walking route that connects major attractions through the city center. The riverfront promenade follows the riverbank and includes paths, trees, benches, and viewing areas. The formerly private shoreline became a public promenade that anyone can enter and enjoy. The public plaza is an open city space where anyone can sit, meet, perform, or attend events. The Civic Plaza stands in front of City Hall and hosts ceremonies, protests, and community gatherings. Tall buildings surround the urban plaza, which provides seating and open space in the dense downtown area. The former roadway became a pedestrian plaza with no cars, new trees, movable chairs, and food kiosks. The entrance plaza creates a welcoming open area between the sidewalk and the museum doors. The transit plaza organizes bus stops, station entrances, passenger seating, and safe walking routes in one space. The urban boulevard combines moving traffic with broad sidewalks, trees, cycle lanes, and buildings facing the street. The Grand Boulevard is a wide and impressive street marked by formal landscaping and important public buildings. Several rows of trees create shade and a green character along the tree-lined boulevard. The pedestrian boulevard is a wide central route reserved mainly for walking, gathering, and outdoor dining. Stores, offices, hotels, and restaurants line both sides of the commercial boulevard. The waterfront boulevard runs beside the bay, with traffic lanes on one side and a public promenade on the other. The mobility corridor combines walking, cycling, buses, and other travel modes along one connected route. The urban corridor is a continuous band of streets, buildings, activity, and movement connecting major districts. The green corridor links parks and habitats through a continuous route of trees, vegetation, and open land. Shops, restaurants, offices, and services form a commercial corridor along the main road. The pedestrian corridor provides a continuous, safe walking route between the station, plaza, and university. New housing and businesses are concentrated in a development corridor along the upgraded rail line. Land allocation decides how much territory is assigned to housing, parks, industry, transport, and other uses. The plaza's space allocation gives broad areas to walking and seating while keeping a narrow lane for deliveries. Housing allocation determines how many sites and units are reserved for different types of homes. Parking allocation limits the number of spaces for cars and reserves more room for bicycles and accessible vehicles. Development allocation directs most new construction to areas near transit and existing public services. Infrastructure allocation distributes funding and space among roads, sewers, parks, schools, and transit facilities. Urban intensification adds more homes, jobs, and activities within the existing city instead of expanding outward. Residential intensification replaces a few detached houses with apartments that accommodate many more residents. Development intensification increases the amount of floor space and activity permitted on already developed land. Land use intensification makes the site work harder by adding more buildings, users, and activities to it. Housing intensification creates additional dwellings through apartments, extensions, and the subdivision of large homes. Corridor intensification concentrates taller buildings and more activities along the major transit route. Site remediation cleans and repairs contaminated land so it can be safely reused for housing or public space. Soil remediation removes toxic chemicals from the ground or treats them until the soil is safe. Environmental remediation repairs pollution damage in the site's soil, groundwater, air, and natural habitats. Brownfield remediation cleans an abandoned industrial property before new homes and parks are built there. Land remediation restores damaged or polluted ground to a condition suitable for safe development. Ecological remediation restores native plants, healthy water, and wildlife habitat in the degraded wetland. Urban legibility makes the city easy to understand through recognizable districts, paths, edges, and landmarks. Clear entrances and visible connections give the complex spatial legibility, so visitors understand how its spaces fit together. Distinct colors, signs, and landmarks improve visual legibility by helping people recognize routes and destinations. Street legibility is strong because the route is continuous, clearly named, and visually points toward the town center. The river, central tower, ring road, and neighborhood squares give the city legibility and help people form a mental map. Environmental legibility allows users to read their surroundings and quickly understand where to go. Pedestrian permeability is high because walkers can pass through many short paths, gates, and mid-block connections. Street permeability improves when connected streets offer several routes rather than forcing all traffic onto one road. Urban permeability describes how easily people can move through the city's network of streets, blocks, and public spaces. Openings between the buildings create spatial permeability by allowing movement from the street into the inner courtyard. Glass walls and open fences provide visual permeability because people can see through them into the garden. New passages increase block permeability by allowing people to cross the large block instead of walking around it. Urban livability reflects how well the city supports a safe, healthy, convenient, and enjoyable daily life. Parks, quiet streets, nearby shops, good schools, and strong social ties improve neighborhood livability. Affordable homes, clean air, reliable transit, public services, and cultural opportunities contribute to city livability. Natural light, ventilation, privacy, low noise, and shared open space increase residential livability. Community livability improves when residents can easily reach services, meet neighbors, and participate in local decisions. The Livability Index gives the city a score based on housing, health, safety, transport, environment, and public services. Urban revitalization brings new life to a declining city area through renovation, investment, public space, and community programs. Neighborhood revitalization repaired vacant homes, improved streets, supported local shops, and added community facilities. Downtown revitalization filled empty storefronts, restored historic buildings, and attracted residents back to the city center. Waterfront revitalization transformed old docks and warehouses into parks, housing, workplaces, and public promenades. Commercial revitalization helped struggling shopping streets by renovating storefronts and supporting new local businesses. Community revitalization combines physical improvements with local jobs, services, events, and resident-led projects. Building massing describes the overall three-dimensional size, shape, and arrangement of a building's main volumes. Urban massing examines how the combined volumes of many buildings shape streets, squares, and the city skyline. Architectural massing divides the large structure into several smaller volumes to reduce its visual bulk. The site massing study tests where tall and low building volumes should stand across the property. Stepped massing places lower floors near the street and gradually sets upper floors farther back like steps. The architect used a massing model made of simple blocks to compare the size and placement of proposed buildings. Street enclosure is strong where closely spaced buildings and trees form clear walls along both sides of the road. Walls, buildings, and planting create spatial enclosure by defining a protected outdoor room. Urban enclosure occurs when built edges clearly surround and shape a street, square, or courtyard. Four connected buildings provide courtyard enclosure and separate the inner garden from surrounding streets. A hedge and low wall create visual enclosure by limiting outside views and making the garden feel private. The roof, walls, windows, and doors form the building enclosure that separates indoor space from the weather. Building typology classifies structures into recognizable types such as towers, row houses, courtyard blocks, and halls. The housing typology study compares detached homes, apartments, duplexes, and other residential forms. Street typology groups streets by form and function, such as avenues, lanes, boulevards, and pedestrian streets. Block typology distinguishes open blocks, perimeter blocks, superblocks, and other recurring block forms. Urban typology identifies recurring physical patterns in districts, including their streets, plots, blocks, and buildings. Neighborhood typology compares common district types such as historic cores, suburbs, garden districts, and transit villages.